stream that.
You have a flag you can pull out?
I do, yeah, and we're live, and I'll start the recording as well. So
I'll
we're,
admit these other people. Whatever. Oh, that's
it
John.
looks,
All right, we good? Adam?
yeah,
Okay, so I will call to order the February 10th, 2021 Planning Board meeting. It appears that we have 6 of 7 members. We've established a quorum, and we can get right into business. We do have a public hearing for Sherman for a minor 2-lot subdivision. But first, I need to start with a notice regarding the planning board meeting. Let me turn my camera off because I have to get close to the screen so I don't look like an idiot. Pursuant to Executive Order number 202.1 issued by Governor Cuomo on March 12, 2020, and advisories issued by federal, state, and local officials related to COVID-19 virus, the Planning Board will convene its February 10, 2021 Planning Board meeting remotely as follows. The Planning Board will commence at 7 p.m. and will be conducted through the use of Zoom, a web-based video conferencing tool with local desktop client and smartphone applications that will allow the planning board members and those with business before the board to participate electronically and remotely by audio and with or without a video connection. And the links to the website are available on the Town of East Greenbush website. Please note that this meeting will be conducted remotely only and will not be held at Town Hall, which is currently closed. Pursuant to Executive Order number 202.1, this meeting will be recorded and transcribed and posted to the town's website. Okay, with that, we will get into the public hearing. So I will open the public hearing by reading the public notice. Please take notice that the Planning Board of the Town of East Greenbush will hold a public hearing on February 10, 2021, beginning at 7 p.m. to consider the following matter. The Town of East Greenbush Planning Board shall conduct a public hearing pursuant to Section 276 of the Town Law and the Town Land Subdivision Regulations on the application of Dave Sherman for a minor 2-lot subdivision called the Start Avenue minor 2-lot subdivision. Proposed Lot 1 consists of 0.198 plus or minus acres for a proposed building lot. Proposed Lot 2 consists of 0.194 plus or minus acres for a building lot. The property is located in the R2 Residential Zoning District, tax map number 166.14-16-11. Said public hearing will be held on Wednesday, February 10th, 2021 at 7 p.m. At the above time and place, all interested parties will be given an opportunity to be heard by order of the Planning Board Chairman, Matt Maston. Pursuant to Executive Order number 202.1 issued by Governor Cuomo on March 12th, 2020, and advisories issued by federal, state, and local officials related to COVID-19 virus, the Planning Board will convene a public hearing remotely as follows. The public hearing will commence at 7 p.m. and shall be conducted through the use of Zoom, a web-based platform conferencing tool with local desktop client and smartphone applications that will allow board members and the public to participate electronically and remotely by audio and with or without a video connection. The meeting will also be live streamed on the town's YouTube channel. The links to the websites are available on the Town of East Greenbush website. Pursuant to Executive Order number 202.1, this meeting will be recorded and transcribed and posted to the town's website. Written comment may be submitted to the Planning Board by email to alovely, ALOVELY at eastgreenbush.org.
Yeah,
or
you're becoming muted now.
Town of East Greenbush, 225 Columbia Turnpike, Rensselaer, New York, 12144, at any time prior to the hearing. Okay, is the applicant available to present?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, you want to give us let us know what you are proposing?
What I have is a. Who's that?
Cindy Elliott also here representing Dave as the surveyor.
Do you want to go, Cindy? Because you probably know more about this.
Sure. I didn't know if I was unmuted and ready to speak, but here we go. Dave owns what we'll call 23 Start Avenue. It is 150-foot wide on the south side of Start Avenue. And as the chairman has read the notice, we wish to divide it into two lots, 0.198 and a 0.
Can you read? I'm sorry, if you're gonna read, would you just mind reading right into the camera for me?
Okay.
Thank you. And if you're reading, just slower than Mr. Meston, please. Thank you.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
no problem. Just a moment. Yes, we wish to subdivide this into two pieces, as the chairman has read the notice. Presently, the lot is vacant, and it would meet code with a 75-foot width and road frontage. We need to do a drainage study. There's been a few items that the board has looked at for last month, and I've sent off an email on some of the changes and will be sending you new maps. I have done the EAF mapper and will be sending you that as well. I can't really think of much else other than what you had made comments on, or Adam has made comments on and sent off some of the things that we've addressed. It is in a residential area. This appears to be the last lot that has not been developed in this area. It is bounded on each side by residential houses as well as across the street. In the rear of the parcel, there is some wooded. If you look on the EAF mapper or your aerial, there is some wooded land lying to the south, but there really isn't much else in this area but residential. Certainly I could take any questions from the board, and I know you have it open for the public hearing now, Matt, so I will be ready to answer anything that you all may have, or listen to the public and perhaps answer something that you allow me to answer from them.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So we've been kind of going through this format where we run through each board member and see if they have any comments on any projects. So we'll do it that way just to try and keep it organized, and then we'll open up to any public members.
Okay.
First, I'll start with Ralph. Comments, questions?
I have no questions at this time, other than in regards to the drainage. What avenues or what are you doing to address that, Cindy?
I have an engineer that I work with who's also a land surveyor, but John Demis, I have sent this off to him. We will be doing some on-site topo. The lot, quite frankly, is fairly cleared. I have located every tree that's there, and we will do a full drainage plan for the two dwellings that Dave is proposing after the subdivision is done.
One of the questions is he taking into regard the watershed off the roof, not only just surface runoff, but the runoff off the roof. That was my issue last week or last meeting, is the way the lots, or I should say the home, is offset on the property. It seems like that the two existing residents, both to the left and the right, may receive a little bit more water than anticipated, being that the house is offset and close to their setback.
Well, we certainly will look at that. We can move the houses actually closer to each other and away from let's say the other adjoining lots. We will also, when we do our topo work, go out onto their lots as well. Usually I go another 50 feet each way to do spot elevations, and we'll be locating their dwellings in relationship to the property line. And we will then do a drainage plan. But that is a good point, and we can certainly move the houses slightly closer to each other rather than to the outside property lines.
Thank you.
All right, Ralph, are you good?
Yes.
Just one administrative thing. Cindy, what's your last name? I apologize so that Kateri can put it into the minutes.
No problem. It's Elliott, Elliott.
Okay, great. Next, we'll move on to Chris Horn. So Kateri, that's Horne.
I don't have questions. I'm all set. Thank you.
You're good? All right, great. We got Kurt Bergman. I think he's spelled out there.
Yep. I just wanted to reiterate, repeat what some of the things that Ralph had said about the drainage, in particular, making sure that the engineered drawings and whatever fill or cut and fill is required, that it does not have any impact on the houses on either side or the road. So hopefully you'll be able to take advantage of the back part of the lot in that regards.
We hope to. We'd also like to have some snow gone so that we can do a proper topo. And at the time period that, if you'll notice the date on my map, it's been almost a year ago. When I was there, there was no snow. And then I went back again to set the iron rods for the split lines, let's say. And I saw no pooling of water on any of the lots. But right now, and I will speak with John tomorrow. He'll be in my office tomorrow and we'll go over this. We need to have a little better sense of the lot and be able to look at it clear without snow.
Okay. Right. Okay. That's great. Yeah. And of course, now versus the when the building is built and the driveway with what may result in significant amount of less impervious soil could also impact it. And I'm sure you'll keep that in mind when you do the.
And I'm certain he will. I know John is retired as the Deputy Commissioner of Public Works for Schoharie County and is a civil engineer and a surveyor. I know that he will then be happy to work with your Commissioner of Public Works for the tie-ins for sewer and the required details, which may be in a page 2 on this map, for the sewer tie-in and the water tie-in. That is not for me, but that's why John and I work together.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, and I was concerned more with the sheeting on the lawns and the driveway. But thank you.
Yep.
No questions.
Are you good? All right, so Don, you're on mute, Don. Don, you're still on mute.
On mute. Can you hear me?
There you go. You're good.
Okay. Again, with drainage, I might have not have caught the statement, but is there a slope to this property?
Not really. It's fairly flat. It does slope slightly away from the road. But it is a fairly flat piece of ground, but you'll see it all in topography with spot elevations, and then we'll have a better handle on it.
Okay. That was just crossing my mind whether it was sloped dramatically or anything in one direction. So it's flat.
It's fairly flat, yes.
Okay.
Thanks, Don. Anything else?
No, I'm good.
All right, thank you. John Conway?
My only question on this would be the timing of the drainage study. You're talking about waiting until after the snow thaws and dissipates?
Well, I'd like to be able to see the ground a little bit better. Usually when I do these, and I had spoken with Dave Sherman, I was surprised that we would be at the public hearing stage and it indicated to Allison that we wouldn't be ready to even really present until the end of February. Then we keep getting these little dribbles of snow and they're not melting particularly well. So if we can get a shot out there and do it, it's not a very big lot. I certainly don't find it to be a big topo. So I would like to get rid of some of the snow because that will then help me to see if there's holding any water anywhere or be able to see if there's melting and then we get a quick thaw I may be able to see and have John out there to really analyze what the soil's doing. But right now, I would say you probably have 5 or 6 inches out there.
Yeah, I would say relative to the process in the public hearing, I mean, this is, you have a concept at this point, right? So
Absolutely.
that's why we're at the public hearing stage. And
Hmm.
from here, it's more or less technical issues, and we're not taking any action relative to the project today. So we don't intend-
Understood.
Yep, thank you. I'm good.
All right, thanks, John. So Adam, are you managing any public comment?
Excuse me. Thank you, Matt. There is one phone number here, 079 are the last 3 digits. Can you please identify yourself?
I think that's my number, but I know we just got
It
a new
is.
phone number.
Yeah, that's Dave.
That's Dave.
Oh, that's Dave.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Then
Yeah.
we don't have anybody else from the public, Matt. So to answer your
We're just-
question.
Okay, so I'll just go through the formalities. Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak on the project? Okay. Is there anyone that would like to speak against the 2-lot subdivision? Is there anyone that would like to speak against the 2-lot subdivision? And lastly, is there anyone that would like to speak against the 2-lot subdivision? Is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of the 2-lot subdivision? Is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of the 2-lot subdivision? And finally, was there anyone that would like to speak in favor of the 2-lot subdivision? Okay, not seeing any comments. Anything else from the board? Joe, I'm going to close this, right, Joe?
Yes. Make a motion to close.
Someday, it's only been 8 years. Someday I'll get it. I'll make a motion to close the public hearing for the Sherman 2-lot subdivision. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Panton. We have no Allison, do we?
Hang on, she's on speakerphone. Here you go, Allison.
Chairman Masson,
Yes.
Ms. Horn,
Yes,
Mr. Viola,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Mr. Pan,
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Yes,
Motion carried by a 6-0 vote.
All right, now we'll move on to old business, 1408 Deer Pond, Elliott Road, major 62-lot subdivision for final approval tentatively. So before we go to the applicant,
Do you
I'd like,
still need me? I'm sorry. I guess I don't know with Zoom.
I don't know who's talking.
Joe, I'm sorry. Maybe it's
Oh,
Kateri.
Kateri, sorry.
Yeah, we're all good, Kateri.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
So before we get to the applicant, Adam, why don't you go ahead and
What, in terms of the status, Matt?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, and what we're proposing to do.
Yeah, thank you. So we have received a final plat application from the project sponsor, and I believe most of the members of their team are here tonight, which is good. The major items are taken care of. Those included the DEC sign off that happened a little while ago. We got Fred Howard's from Rensselaer County Health Department sign off earlier today. A couple of conditions around, like the Commissioner of Public Works providing a letter approving it and that kind of thing. So those will be satisfied. And the Rensselaer County Highway, as you guys saw in the packets, they issued highway work permits for both the driveway, the roadway curb cuts, and the utility work in the right-of-way, the county right-of-way. The final plat application has, I think there's something like 12 additional items that must be filed. There were a couple of lingering items around, like the will serve letter from the local utility, National Grid. Typically, and Andy and the sponsors team can get into this, but typically their process only involves designing the utility service once a final plat is on file and, with the county. So there have been exceptions to that, but it's going to be really difficult for their standard practice is not to provide that until it's filed. I think we got a letter from the school district. I think there was a certificate of title was one of the other things in my review. You guys have that checklist, and we can go through that if you would like. But in general, the status is we have basically essentially a virtually complete application, if you will. Most of the major items have been addressed. So what we're proposing tonight, as I wrote in an email to the board and also conveyed to the applicant's team, we would propose to accept or acknowledge the application tonight. And under the subdivision regulations, that essentially starts a 45-day clock for the applicant, for the town, the planning board, to act on the application. So that would be conditionally approve, or disapprove the application. What the 45 days will allow us to do is conduct a thorough review, as I outlined. This project is fairly substantial in scope. There's roughly $4 million of infrastructure proposed, including some really significant upgrades to the water system, among other things. And it's been a fair amount of time since we issued the preliminary plat approval. Henry LaBarba is here with us. He has taken a look through the final plat application. And what we're going to do is, I think myself, Commissioner of Public Works, and Henry are going to go through the plans in more detail. And I would expect mostly the comments to be technical in nature, like we don't have enough material in the subbase on this section, not major things like changing roadway alignments or that type of thing. So that if the board proceeds accordingly tonight, that would give us time to come back to the board with comments, having worked with the applicant presumably beforehand, and really be confident that we've tied up all loose ends. The other thing I wanted to mention, there are two other things on the review, and we still haven't made a determination yet. I've talked with the sponsor, with Henry, about onboarding a TDE who is going to be responsible for construction inspection. The construction inspection is critical, and if Henry's not going to be involved on the CI side, it makes sense, or it may make sense, to have a TDE who is going to be doing that, involved at this stage, at least to start getting their eyes on this. The final thing I wanted to mention is I did have a conversation with the Army Corps of Engineers about the coverage under the nationwide permit. There were a few conditions in there, and I spoke with Andy Brick about this as well. There are a few conditions in there that, including filing deed restrictions there's a fairly substantial number of acres here, about 20 plus acres that are going to be deed restricted, including some upland areas, in addition to the wetlands, as well as about an acre and a fourth of mitigation to be created on site. So the two conditions of the nationwide permit approval issued in November 2018 were that A, those deed restrictions get filed, and B, the mitigation gets started. So my conversation with the Corps was essentially that, because they're not in compliance with those conditions right now, the applicant, prior to doing any work, would need to file the deed restrictions, but also apply for a modification through the Army Corps. So probably what we'll do is condition the final plat approval prior to a building permit, submitting the modifications to the Corps and having that evidence submitted to us, and then filing the deed restrictions, and then most likely recommending that prior to CO, the mitigation area is complete, because the mitigation is over an acre and they're going to need a grading permit and coverage under the SWIP to actually implement the mitigation. So, but before a CO is issued, that mitigation needs to be in place. So that's kind of a summary from my standpoint, Matt. I can answer any other questions.
No, that was helpful. And so, like you said, I think you said it, me, you, and Joe had, we talked about this and this strategy of getting to the end. I think to summarize, a little more succinctly, is that at this point, there were some larger issues outstanding. At this point, it's more or less a punch list of items that have to get taken care of. But the ball will be in the town's court over the next 45 days to review it. And for whatever small technical details to make sure that we're okay with it. And then sometime within that 40-day window, we would vote on it for final plat, and then hopefully never see this project again.
I have a question. This is the first time I think I've heard about a Corps of Engineers review. That's more than a punch list item that would be taken care of in the next 45 days, isn't it?
I think the applicant, Chris, should also weigh in. And I did get a real good understanding from the staff person, Adam, I spoke with. They did get, so that was a condition of their preliminary plat approval, and they did get coverage. However, the coverage was under a nationwide permit. So basically they're covered under a boilerplate, kind of like the SWIP, New York State DEC general permit, but there are special conditions associated with the permit applicable specifically to this project. Some of those had time clocks against them. They were not, the project didn't move forward. So those were not completed. So they still, when I talked to the Corps, that was one of the questions I asked, is what's the status now, and what should we be considering relative to the permit? And they explained that it's pretty typical for a modification to get done or requested, and that it's roughly a 60-day process or so. So the coverage is there. The permit does expire on the March 20, maybe I think it's March of 2022. If the applicant is under contract to start the work, or if they've already started the work, there's an additional year of coverage available. There's some things for the applicant to be aware of also, and for the board. The nationwide permit changes can occur, and they typically occur on like a 5-year cycle. The Corps told me that there have been some events, some occurrences that may force the Corps to do a permit update sooner, and that that might inaugurate a whole separate set of issues, but as long as they get the permit modification and get coverage and satisfy those conditions, we should be good. And in general, it's between the Corps and the applicant. We're the seeker lead agency and we're coordinating, but a lot of this, the deed restrictions, the demonstrating that the mitigation is done, it's really between the applicant and the owner, the property owners, really, because it runs with the land and the Corps. Andy, do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, that was a great explanation. We do have coverage under the permit from 2018. That permit requires us to do two things. One, file covenants and restrictions on the property to protect the wetland areas that we won't be disturbing. And two, create a mitigation area on site to offset our impact to the wetlands. It's about an acre. So we will perform both of those functions. It's a matter of timing. We would file the covenants and restrictions roughly at the same time as filing the subdivision map, because from my perspective, it makes more sense for the covenants and restrictions to reference the final filed map, because it's clear if somebody goes to the county clerk and looks where the wetlands are and where the restrictions are in place, they see it right on the map versus the map right now, which is just one lot. And then in terms of the mitigation area is an area we would have to create. It usually makes most logical sense to perform that function while we're doing the site grading and the site preparation and the site work and the infrastructure install during the SWIP. So we can continue to have the conversation with Adam about what the appropriate point, the time is gonna, in time that the town will require that to be done. I think we were talking about prior to the first CO or prior, and I think we can accomplish that. But those are the two things that we are required to do, but we do have an existing valid permit.
Chris, anything else? Okay, so again, we'll go down through. Ralph, you got anything?
Fine.
All right. What's that?
I'm fine.
Okay. Kurt?
No comment.
John?
The mitigation area, can that be anywhere on the property? Is that gonna be near Elliott Road or farther in? I'm a little confused on that.
There isn't a specific requirement in the Army Corps permit on where it's located, but what I envision is a continued conversation with us, our contractor, the Army Corps, and the town as to the appropriate location. Usually they require them, in proximity to or adjacent to existing wetlands, so you can expand the existing ones. And we have enough on site that we may be able to do it internal, or we could do it out by the road. Again, it's a conversation we could all have, and hopefully we can all agree on the proper location.
And Don, to elaborate on that, if I could, the way it's proposed right now, it's actually behind the existing house and sort of adjacent to the existing pond on Elliott. So that's roughly where it's currently platted or shown.
So it's gonna be near Elliott. So, okay.
All right, you good, Don?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, John Conway?
Yep, I'm fine on this.
Okay, so I'll go forward with the resolution. Andy, I will say again, I look forward to only seeing you one more time within the next 45 days on this project. I welcome you to come back on a different project, but that's gonna be it. I mean,
I'll do my best to be on vacation when Kevin and Alvaro bring it back next time, I promise.
I hope so. We've been over backwards for you on this.
You really have. And let me just say for the record, we would not be here this evening, even in this position, if you hadn't graciously extended so many time extensions. So we really do appreciate it. And we appreciate your willingness to work with us to get to here. So thank you.
Yep, appreciate it. So, all right, with that, I'll make a motion that whereas the Town of East Rivers Planning Board granted conditional preliminary plat and pre-construction approval of the above mentioned subdivision on April 11, 2018. And whereas the Planning Board granted conditional preliminary plat approval on April 11, 2018. And whereas in accordance with the planning board's conditional preliminary plat approval in Article 4, Section 5 of the town subdivision regulations, the final plat and other supplementary documents shall be filed with the clerk of the planning board within 180 days after preliminary plat approval. And whereas the planning board last granted an extension of the conditional approval in accordance with Article 4, Section 5 of the town's subdivision regulations commencing on December 9, 2020 until February 10th, 2021. And whereas on February 5th, 2021, the applicant filed an application for the final plat approval, including a revised final plat prepared by Boswell Engineering dated December 3rd, 2015, and recently revised January 2021, and related materials. Be it resolved that the Town of East Grimers Planning Board hereby acknowledges receipt of the final plat and supplementary documents submitted by the applicant in accordance with Article 4, Section 5 of the town's subdivision regulations. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Panton.
Roll call as follows. Chairman Masson,
Yes.
Ms. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Viola,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Mr. Panton,
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Yes.
Motion carried by 6-0 vote.
Great. Thanks for attending.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to plan zoning update for Gilligan Road, complete streets. Is that correct, Adam?
Yeah. So I was a little bit behind in getting the board the draft report, and I think we included the presentation that we had at the stakeholder meeting and the conceptual alignments. So I do regret the delay in getting that to you guys. I think it was Friday or so. But if you have any comments on that material, I'm not sure we have any action on this tonight unless you wanted to put something together.
No, but what's the time frame for that action? Is that next meeting? Is that a month from now?
Yeah, I think, so we had a meeting with our engineer who's working with us on this. We looked, that was last Monday. We looked at, Department of Public Works was there, and we looked at the parking lot, the ball fields in particular, because one of the things that we're looking at is access management, right? With the trail, we want to reduce conflict points, not only with the trail users, but also vehicles coming out of the ball field parking lot. So there's some complexities with that, because under the concept sketch that the engineer had put together, I think it was in the neighborhood of several dozen parking spots would be lost, which I don't think is going to be viable. So that's one issue we need to go back to the stakeholders on. In terms of the timing, we need to get that design and then have another smaller stakeholder meeting with most likely with just those groups involved, the school district, the ball fields, and DPW, and then put that feasibility study together. My aim is to get the technical stuff from our engineer and put the feasibility study together by the end of March, hopefully by to have enough to have the town board schedule a public hearing for April, and then consider adopting the study. And then we can go from there. I think it'll be some time before the school district would be able to include the work in their capital plan, which is state funded and on a different cycle, I guess. But does that answer your question?
Yeah, I was just looking to see when you wanted comments from us. But as far as the parking, I don't think I agree. I don't think it's feasible to remove any spots from the baseball field, especially 12. people already park on Turner Ave. So you can maybe, if you can put them somewhere else, that's one thing, but removing them, I don't think that's an option. I don't know. I haven't had involvement there in 15 years. But.
One of the other questions that I had was, or have them look at, and I'm sure there's a reason, is they have the sidewalk going up one side, and then by the ball fields, they have it a crosswalk, and then it proceeds. And is there any way to just have the sidewalk on one side continuously instead of forcing people and kids to cross the street? No, that's an open question. I don't need an answer now. That was just one thing that struck me.
Yeah, initially, there are right-of-way constraints on the, so we wanted to start on the Goff Middle School side because it just makes sense to, the early win here is connecting the ball fields with the middle school. Mm-hmm. So if we have to phase some of this, that's another option. And we kind of intended that. Mm-hmm. At the North Turner Ave intersection, we could cross, in that vicinity, and then keep it on the west side of Gilligan. But there's at least two homes there that we don't have sufficient right of way. Doesn't look like, so that's why we would cross further to the north to avoid any potential right of way impacts or need. And then the DPW garage. I mean, they're on a postage stamp there. They've got space constraints. So. And there's also topographic constraints there. The road surface is a little bit elevated. So keeping it along Gilligan for much further wasn't going to make sense in terms of those constraints there, at least as part of the first pass. And that was something else we talked about with the engineer is where do we make that crossing, looking at that again.
Okay.
Because of the loss of parking. Yeah.
Well, one thing in regards to Kurt's comment is honestly, you don't have the proper sight distance. When you come up Gilligan Road from 9 and 20, if you have a crosswalk right there where you're speaking about, you got to be careful. There really isn't that much sight. You come up the hill, you can't see in front of you. To put that crosswalk there, I think needs to be reviewed a little bit more.
Well, Adam, one thing, I guess to Ralph's point, one thing I've seen that they have on New Scotland Ave, it's right near my office, is at a crosswalk, it's a button and it's got a sign on both sides of the road and it flashes incredibly bright for people to cross the road. Maybe that might not be an end-all be-all solution, but it's certainly an option to help mitigate that.
Yeah, and that's exactly why we have a traffic engineer involved here. They're going to design those two crosswalks at turn-in north and south. And then the trail crossing, like you said, would have one of those rectangular rapid flashing beacons or RRFBs or whatever, most likely not a signal. But yeah, and Ralph.
The thing that I'm talking about in New Scotland, like it's the person crossing hits a button.
Yep.
It is a regular crosswalk sign, but with really bright lights on it that all of a sudden just start going off. And it just gets people's attention to stop because the people are going to cross.
Similar to the new electric trail that we have by True Value. Is that
yeah, Elliott, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. I did have
Ralph. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Should I go? Okay. One other comment I had was having years ago been there. I used to always, because you run out of parking, I would park on the school side on the lawn. And from the artist's rendition of what the trail or what the sidewalk would look like, it looked like if there was an overflow that cars will just really, park on that sidewalk area. They'll just cheat the road and park all along there. And I don't know if we keep that in mind, if we have to put up some type of a railing or something to keep them from doing that. I don't know.
And that's, yeah, there would be some kind of separation, either like vertical or some kind of barrier, but there aren't a lot of good examples from around the region for this type of a scenario, One of the other things to mention too is one of the things we talked about was for overflow, for compensating for that, potentially approaching the property owner across the street from Gilligan, the garage, and doing a lot there. And then, you'd have that trail crossing, presuming we could make it safe and it met the standards. So that would be potentially closer for people, and we gain, 30 spots or whatever, than walking all the way down to Goff, because the parking's fairly far to the south.
I think we see that property owner fairly often.
It seems to me though, Adam, that is that a dead issue, keeping the sidewalk on the same side all the way to Route 9 and 20? Because if you kept it on that side, it would also service the apartments that are at the bottom of the hill. Now you've got them crossing the road to get on the sidewalk. It just seems to me that it would mitigate a lot of issues if you were able to keep the sidewalk continuous on one side or the other.
Isn't there a sidewalk down near the apartments too?
A small piece, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Very small piece. Just looking at it, not really getting into the nitty gritty, but it just seems a lot more, that would be a lot safer overall if you could eliminate that crosswalk, no matter where you put it. And if it's, you're not really asking for that much space. I think it was a 10-foot side. Well, I forgot what it said. And it may just require a little bit more planning in front of the town garage as far as exits and egress and whatnot. As right now, it's just a free-for-all turning in there. It just seems that I think I'd like to see a little bit more effort put in to see if we can keep it all on one side of the street. Unless there's something that we're missing.
I would guess that the peak use of the sidewalk would be on the weekends anyway, so the exits with the DPW would be minimal.
Right. And honestly, that whole entrance needs to be cleaned up regardless, Adam. The DPW entrance. I mean, they pull in and out of there, they have probably 250 foot of road frontage that they just pull in and out of haphazardly.
Kurt, to your point about parking near Goff, we could just put up spike strips or something.
You're muted, Kurt. We can't hear you.
Look, I was cursing. It's the lucky. Thank God I didn't hear the word when somebody said, "Oh well, we don't have property rights on that," and I was afraid somebody's going to say eminent domain, and then, oh boy, there we go.
Yeah.
If we are able to cooperate with that property owner across the street, there may be an opportunity to, if we use some of the DPW, we didn't talk about this with DPW, use it, keeping it like you're saying on that side of the road, and then maybe formalizing that relationship with some, I think right now, a lot of what's over there is stockpiles, but also like surplus equipment and stuff. So if there's more like stockpile area over there.
The area you're talking about for the parking lot, that's just where they put surplus vehicles. And then further down, it's where they stockpile materials, right?
Yes.
Down in the pit.
Yeah.
I think in addition to the DPW garage and their space needs and constraints, I think the width, between the closest ball field and the road, there's a guide rail, there's a fair amount of relief. There's not a lot of room there between the fence and the, and the edge of pavement,
Right.
That's Winnie Field, I think.
Right. And doesn't that, I think that drops off too. Isn't there a drop off?
Yeah, I think so.
I hit a home run out of there in a softball charity event one time. No big deal.
Yeah, you had to bring that up. Well, you're going to work that in the conversation one way or the other.
I was also 25, and it's about 125 feet to hit it over the fence.
And you're still living the glory.
Yeah.
Well, just a comment, Adam, because as you know, that's how that girl got hit, was crossing the road, whether or not there was a crosswalk there or not. That's how it happened, and it just the road gets a lot of use, and of course on the weekends, everybody's running late, everybody's rushing to the ball fields. It's just a real cluster in that one area.
Yeah, I would say even during the week, right? Yeah, people dropping their kids off at school, they're rushing to work, and they're flying.
I hate to see us go through all this trouble and try to make Gilligan Road a safer place. In reality, we don't achieve our goal.
Yeah, I do think pedestrian accommodations are important. I mean, in the past 5 years, we've probably had 4 people get hit by cars. I mean, there's been...
and besides the ball field activity, if we ever get back to normal, when they have school dances and things, they used to have quite a bit of school, have school dances there. And after the school dance let out, or a large sporting event, there would be droves of people walking along Gilligan Road.
Heading to whipbacks.
So it's not just a ball field activity. Yeah.
Right, Matt? You and I remember that.
Not me. I would.
We might. Yeah, you followed in our footsteps.
That's because I hung out with your son.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the early win, is making that, that connection between those two facilities. I think if we need to do some more study, or if there are sort of preconditions to go one way or the other, that opportunities might present themselves. There's not right now funding to continue this all the way up to Columbia Turnpike. So,
I think that kind of helps the argument to keep it on the one side of the road, right? Because once you hit that small, at least then you gain some small portion of sidewalk when you get down near the apartments. It's not an earth-shattering amount of money that you're going to save, but it's something.
Right.
So on that note, good luck, Adam, with this.
Are we talking, just to be clear, are we talking about in keeping it on one side of the road, on the ball field side of the road, or the opposite side of the road? I think the ball field side of the road, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we talked about this last time, but we just have to be careful about the cars that park willy-nilly, that are going to be perhaps blocking the path on, have heavy baseball weekends, and pulling out. Nobody uses the actual entrance and exits there. It's very haphazard how people pull out on Gilligan Road when there are a lot of cars there for ball games. So I just think it's an extra danger having the path on that side, unless there's some kind of barriers protecting the path.
But I think the issue at hand is right away on the other side of the road, right, Adam?
Yeah. Yes. And it, if, and keep, making that connection between the two facilities without having a crossing. After that point, it's a different story.
Yeah, no, I think that's the right side of the road, the preferred side of the road to have it. I just would want to be sure there was some kind of consideration to protecting it from traffic. From the baseball traffic that are going to pull out over it, on it, crack it, whatever it may be.
I agree. I think there, and also at the DPW, because as Ralph said, that's their entrance and exit is pretty long. And I think, if it was more of a controlled entrance and exit for both the parking lot and DPW, I think that would help that situation, I think.
Well, the engineers preliminary sketch had going from, I think it was 5 or maybe more aisle access points, of sort of official striped aisle intersections with Gilligan, down to 2. And that was one of the reasons why we lost so many spaces. So we're I think we will, the plan most likely would involve some reduction in those, those curb cuts and a little bit more access management to that parking lot.
All right, anything else?
Do you, once we get a draft of the feasibility study and or have more detailed design drawings for this, do you guys want to take another look at this?
Yeah, you might as well
Yes.
distribute it, for sure.
Okay, great.
All right, is Allison on the computer now or just still on the phone?
She's on the phone. It's very interesting. Somehow she's activated remotely her office camera. I mean, nobody's there. I called Allison. I called the office. I'm like, Allison, are you okay? I wasn't sure if she was okay.
That's happened to people in my office. That's happened to people in my office when they like VPN in or something like that.
That just put you on notice, Adam. Don't ever do anything in your office you should don't have anyone else to see.
That's a security camera. That's not a computer camera.
Yeah, right. So a productivity monitor. I mean,
That's not what I was.
webcam.
That's not what I was insinuating.
Allison, if you can hear me, who can vote on the January 27th meeting minutes?
Everybody can. Jim Moore's absent, so he's just not here, but everybody else can.
And by the way, knowing that you have video cameras around town, I thought they were very well written. Thank you.
Thanks.
With that, I'll make a motion to approve the January 27, 2020 meeting minutes. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Oh, Bergman got him. Bergman got Mr. Conway.
He's quick.
Roll call as follows: Chairman Maston,
Yes.
Ms. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Viola,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Mr. Canton,
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Yes.
Motion carried by 6-0 vote.
All right. Anyone got anything else? So, all right. When I do make a motion.
Yes, I do.
Oh, I should have made a motion.
Sorry, this was an easy one though. I just want to clarify, what are we doing now with the vouchers and electronic signatures? Because I was a little confused about the last one.
I have no idea.
Allison or Adam, do we know what we're supposed to do?
Yeah, we did work with excuse me, Megan Hart in the finance office, and she was working to make sure that their office was okay. They own those forms, right? So she wants to make sure they're okay, and she was still looking at making sure that she addressed the board's comments, like that fillable form. But Allison, is that about right? I don't want to. I know you've been more involved in that.
Yeah, no, that's right, Adam. We're still waiting for like a form from them that they're happy with, that also works with their department. So I guess at this point we're still working with our old forms and filling them out to the best of your ability. And as soon as we get a new form, I will definitely send it to you guys. But right now it looks like we're still working with the old ones. So.
Okay, great. Yeah, no, I just wanted to clarify that was the case. That's fine.
Yep.
Allison, I didn't submit my last one because I was tardy in sending it in, and I was trying to do the whatever that download was. Can I put last meeting and this one on one form?
Yes.
I think so, but if you can do them separate, that would be great, because Lisa and Human Resources still submitted payment for you this period without your voucher.
Okay.
So if you can just do a separate one, I would say just do a separate one if you can. That would probably work better.
Okay, I'll do that.
Confusion's sake, but that would be great.
They're very trusting people for $72.
Kurt,
Well,
if
like
I were
I
you,
told her, and she knew.
I'm
we were
leaving town.
definitely at the meeting, so she didn't have a problem submitting it as to not
Okay,
hold
let's
things
do
up, so.
two separate
but-
ones. Thank you.
Kurt, if I were you, I would just keep not sending them in.
Yeah, right, I know, right?
Everyone's gonna get paid around for 26 meetings around Christmas.
Yeah, that's right, lump sum.
All right, so now anything else?
Yeah, before we go, can I ask, there's something else on the agenda, right? Is the ZBA referral, do we do anything with that?
Frost.
No, actually, I had crossed that out and re-uploaded it to the Google Drive, but I don't know if you guys saw, those guys aren't ready yet.
Okay,
So it's probably gonna be put off until the next meeting, so that is not on for tonight to be assigned.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I should have mentioned that. Sorry. All right. Anyone else? I will just say, just for the sake of me making sure I don't miss anything, when I do make the motion to close, if you just put your hand up as opposed, as you say aye or nay, whatever, that would be helpful. So that'll make a motion to close the meeting. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, consensus. Ralph, I like the effort there.
I want to make sure you saw me, Matt.
I got it.
All right.
You got good Wi-Fi. It came in nice and clear. All right. Well, everyone have a good night. I got a Rangers game to go watch now.
All right.
Take
All
care.
right, you guys too, take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night, everybody. Good night.